AMD stock focuses on different data centers and AI infrastructures that are part of the fastest growing sector in tech. And I know firsthand how overwhelming it can feel to trade during these explosive times. But what's even more exciting is that we just hit 20,000 subscribers on the channel. So thank you guys. Appreciate you all. I've been getting a lot of messages about those Robinhood ads that have my face on it. That's because we're officially partnered with Robinhood for those ads, and that wouldn't have been possible if we weren't laser focused on principle centered analysis and investing right here with you. So let's dive into how to trade AMD and kind of what's going on with the stock right now. When it comes to AMD, if you guys ever want to watch us trade live, you can in the second link in the description every day at market open. We were trading it this week towards the end of the week on AMDL. So AMDL goes up twice as much or down twice as much as AMD stock. So it's tied to AMD. So for example, you could see that AMD finished the day up 0.86% on Friday. And so AMDL is showing about 1.6, so about twice as much. So here is the pattern with AMD. For the past few years, it's made this consistent trend upward, and long-term holders of AMD are most likely very satisfied, especially through AI. At one point in 2024, they surged to $227 before selling off. Now, they've got some new partnerships that are starting to get attention from some other big tech companies because they're doing things to take on NVIDIA. They're doing things to take on Microsoft and be a top tech player. And what we've seen is they've continually reported very good earnings throughout this sell off from that peak in March of $227, selling as low as $76. And throughout that entire trend down, they've had a very consistent earnings of positive revenue. Now, some people say, Will, I like to invest in private companies or companies that aren't getting as much public attention because usually they're not as inflated. Well, AMD stock obviously is public and everybody kind of knows the stock, I would imagine, but they have some things that are in the private sector that put them at an advantage. And actually, if there was one publicly traded company besides maybe Tesla that has really good like Tesla could use their SpaceX advantage or the XAI advantage of these private companies that are doing valuable things. AMD has some similar partnerships, and while the trend since that high of $227 back in March of 2024, it's been downward, and you can see this recent push up here into June here 2025. It's now having this downtrend, and it's like, oh, maybe it's just going to sell down and continue down. But I wouldn't actually play this trend. I would actually look for the longer term swing and getting back into $200 price points. And we're going to kind of talk about why. A couple things. They just recently announced that, actually, before I even share that, if you guys search AMD stock, AMD, and you search Starlink, what you'll find is you will most likely see some videos here that are from us. You see this? Breaking. AMD stock is now powering Starlink, and we're one of the first people to start covering that. And why is that important? If they're powering SpaceX, Starlink, that is meaning their chips are superior to other chips, and that a space company is willing to take a bet that their chips, their Versal AI core chips, are going to last for years and years and years and years. So AMD has a very, very strong quality, and that's intrinsically why they continue to get business. Now, when we're looking at some of their other news and partnerships, so that's one of the financial benefits I think is going to continue to reap rewards and fruits in the future is Starlink as a partnership. But when you look at also, they recently they purchased this company Brium. It's kind of been under the radar. Not a lot of people know about this, but in the last 3 days, AMD stock purchased this company. So Brium is a company that focuses on large language model inference across a range of hardware and architectures. And specifically, they build software that runs different large language models more efficiently than other language models on very mainstream GPUs, mainstream technologies like AMD's microchips, their GPUs, or NVIDIA's GPUs, right? And I don't know if you guys heard like DeepSeek, that was a big deal, right? DeepSeek came out with this AI model that was faster and getting better answers than ChatGPT for a few months there. And this company kind of does a similar thing where they build software that enhances the speed and lower latency, enhancing application responsiveness while higher throughput can reduce total cost of ownership of an inference system. And you can see this example where they compare running. It says on the left, inference is running our stack, and on the right, it's running SGLang, which is a very commonly used inference there. Inference meaning that they're running on the same exact MI 210, which I believe is like either AMD or it might be, yeah, it's AMD's. And you can see, look how much faster the answer is spitting out on the left. It's because their software is making like a way more efficient model. And then on the right, it's like taking way more time and everything else. And they have these benchmarks where they kind of compare their speed versus others on the same GPUs. And they're demonstrating the results on AMD's GPUs here. And so shortly after this was just announced about 2 days ago, actually, not even 3 days ago, AMD acquired this software company. What does that mean? Well, NVIDIA is working on their own type of kind of open AI where they can have their own AI that's, because OpenAI relies on NVIDIA's GPUs. But if NVIDIA GPUs, they really know how to make something better than OpenAI, NVIDIA is looking to compete as well and create large language models, and they're doing that. And so AMD is saying, hey, we're going to create our own AIs as well. They just acquired this software company, Brium, and that can put them at an advantage. It says AMD noted, this acquisition strengthens our foundation for long-term innovation. It reflects our strategic commitment to AI, particularly to the developers who are building the future of intelligent applications. And it is also the latest in a series of targeted investments following the acquisitions of Silo AI, Nod AI, Mipsology, that together to advance our ability to support the open source software ecosystem and deliver optimized performance on AMD hardware. In other words, building their own large language models on their own hardware is a huge move. And what does that mean? Well, they're getting into Starlink, they're getting into the large language models, and when you look at their financials, it's reflecting. Their recent revenues here up 35% year over year. But this is where it gets interesting. Their net income, their profit margins, they're up 476% on their net income. They made a very conscious decision back in 2024 to shift their focus from gaming and things like that, which you could actually see, like right here, it looks like Intel is AMD's market share dropped to 8% in gaming. So AMD is saying, okay, we're not focusing as much on gaming. What did they do? Overall sales growth, but they said we're building data centers. We're going to go more all in on the infrastructure of the AI boom. So when we look at their financials, just quarterly, quarter over quarter, look how much in the last year their revenue has grown from 5.4 billion, steadily growing along with their net income, to now 7.4 billion. So steadily growing quarter over quarter, and annually you could see that growth take place. So then you combine that with their balance sheet, and their total assets are so much greater than that of their total liabilities, and their total assets are at an all-time high. So why is that important? Well, all of those things together put us in a probability state of the market's growing, the financials are looking good, and their partnerships are aligning well. They reported that they saw increases in revenue primarily due to their bigger focus on data centers, and a lot of their partners. They got partners with Apple and Tesla and Microsoft, Google. There's different avenues that they've gone down where they are getting pieces of those markets, and in the process announcing that those companies, a lot of them announced in their last or in the last quarter of 2024, a lot of them said, we're going to invest more in AI. And AMD is one of the companies that was mentioned a lot of times. So what does that mean? Well, now we start to see it push up. It's more bullish. It's gotten back up into this green territory. As we mentioned, it's like this downtrend in the near term where it could sell back down or something like that. But I'm continuing to add to our long-term positions in our Charles Schwab portfolio. And then in our short-term positions, we entered a small position over on AMDL on Friday, and it's still kind of holding here. But what we're looking for is a couple things to take place. I would really like to see a swing that is going to be something along the lines of this. Now, when it comes to AMD, some people say that's very volatile. It's only hit those points twice before. But here's what they don't realize. AMD stock has continually beat their earnings and their revenue. And so with those things together, and we look at some of the support and resistance, right? Take a look at the moving averages. When you have this EMA, this blue line here, indicating when it's in trend up or down, and also the 200-day moving average. The 200-day moving average for many months since November was acting as a resistance. You see it push up, get rejected, push up, get rejected. Into February, push up, get rejected. Little bit of breathing room into March, but then continuing down and getting rejected. Now, just recently, in April, really going into May here of 2025, it breaks above the 200-day moving average, starts to swing and rally up to 122. It's starting to look more bullish, and now we're looking at a pretty strong previous resistance here at this level. So there's this resistance level, or a support and a resistance, right here at around $114. There's also one that is that next level down here at about 105. So if we're going to continue bullish, the moving average that it's recently broken above, this 200-day moving average, it's going to meet it at a support, or potentially act as a support somewhere in here around this either $110 or $115 range, unless we see something that's very unprecedented in its bullish momentum. I think that we could see it maybe consolidate or reach somewhere in this 200-day moving average, probably around 115, or between 105 and 115. So maybe a little bit of a sell down or a hold above this support that it's recently established, this resistance that's acting as a support, out to about $115 over the next few days. Now that looks like about June 10th, June 12th, something like that. And I don't know. We'll see how the market reacts. It's very volatile with some of the recent news, and anything could swing the stock. But when it comes down to the reality of the risk to reward, I see it as a company that has that potential to make that run up into those levels. And so, if we were to see that type of trend play out, it would be about 100% here, but up to 200% over on AMDL. So as these moves start, and maybe we get a consistent trend like we got last time on the way up, and then we can play if it starts to see that direction. When it pulls back, we continue to add to our positions or even trade it in the short term if we see those dips at market open before any of the rally kicks in. So we'll be watching it very closely at market open and see if any opportunities present themselves. And for those of you guys that would like to join us in our market session on Monday, now when it comes to Stockmate, we focus on investing in AI, quantum, tech, and definitely focusing on space stocks as well. And you get our A to Z blueprint. You can learn fundamental analysis, technical analysis, as well as the books that we've put together there as well. There's a whole Stockmate community where you can get our weekly targets as well as complete breakdowns of stocks and surround yourself with like-minded investors and traders. And there's a huge discount there for $150 off if you want to take advantage of it. It's the second link below. Aside from that, you get our daily live trading sessions. If you ever want to see how I enter and exit our trades and get to experience that with all the other members in Stockmate, then I would encourage you guys to simply take a look at the second link in the description. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you all. If I earned your thumbs up, hit the like button. Do consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.